Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here with Casey Cooley.
Hello, everybody.
And Cody Geiler. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good. Good. Glad to be back.
Yes, we are knocking out another episode here. I'm only about 3 days before I head to Disney, my friends. So, got to get this episode in. Yes.
The Black Spire.
To Black Spire. I will be going and eating some Ronto wraps and drinking some blue milk.
I'm jealous.
What was the holiday special that they made a big deal about? Was it Ronto wraps?
On the latest
Lego?
One?
What was the big meal
that
Poe
what was that meal?
It was I think it was like Ronto. No, it's the Tip Yip.
Tip Yip.
Yeah. He made a big deal about it.
I don't know if you can get Tip Yip. Can you get Tip Yip there? I don't know. I gotta look that up. Yes, I am heading there for a little Christmas vacation. Can't wait. I don't think Batu gets decorated during Christmas. I think it's always the same season.
Celebrate Life Day?
I guess not. Maybe not. I don't know. It's true.
This isn't the first holiday. Is this the first Christmas with them? Is this
second one?
Second Christmas. Okay.
Yeah, they were open last year, and unfortunately, it's a little different. You know, can't do the. You could do the lightsaber thing, but it would have been different. I'm not doing the lightsaber experience now because they don't do the full walkthrough and build, like you usually do. But I will be going into Doc Ondor's and finding me some
antiquities,
holocrons, and some new crystals. And I do want to buy. You know how they're selling legacy lightsabers. All the different. I want the Leia. If they have the Leia lightsaber, I'm buying it.
If they
do, I don't know if they do or not, but I don't know if they've made that one yet.
I heard that they did a poll recently. I think we probably talked about it a little bit. They're going to make the Cal Kestis saber as a part of one of those. And that lightsaber, because it's the torn up version from the beginning of the game, that one would be an awesome one to get.
That would be. Yeah. Anyway, so I'll so when I get back, obviously after Christmas, we'll get back to doing a show, and I'll share my fun excitement there. We're taking 2 trips to Hollywood Studios, so I'll be trying to, so it's 2 chances of, even though it's limited capacity, it's still very difficult to get on Rise of the Resistance, which I haven't done yet. That's the one ride I haven't done yet. So, gosh, I hope I can get on that one. But we got a lot to talk about here. We got the next episode of The Mandalorian, which is the next to last episode this season, chapter 15, entitled The Believer. So we'll dive into that. And then our big topic on this episode, I do want to talk a little bit more about the call that Grogu made out into the universe, and who is going to. I know we touched a little bit on that, but I want to dive a little bit deeper into that and talk about truly who could it be, and really how much that could impact the story that we're going to get into, because I've been thinking more and more about it. And of course, social media, people are talking about it all over the place. But first, Cody wasn't with us last week, and we got some major announcements. I mean, probably the biggest announcement since 7, 8, 9 were coming, back in 2014. So, Cody, overall, what your thoughts on everything you heard, and what things are you looking forward to the most?
I mean, overall, I'm hyped. I mean, just like you guys, I was listening to the show. Obviously, I caught a little bit of the investor presentation and then saw some of the updates afterwards. I feel like this is what we wanted, right? This is what a virtual celebration could have been. Maybe some of these things were designed to be a part of the original celebration that then got canceled. It kind of felt that way because they had a lot of announcements. But I feel like as fans, this is exactly what you want. You want a roadmap, so to speak, a lot of different content. I just can't believe that there's 10 different shows. I mean, that's just kind of mind blowing. We knew about a few of them. I mean, the ones that kind of caught my eye, I agreed with a lot of the things you guys said. I mean, the Obi-Wan show has been the one that I think a lot of us had wanted, even since they said it was going to be a movie. We already knew about that, but the Hayden news was huge. I mean,
Yes.
we speculated, would he show up? Would it be flashbacks of Clone Wars? Would they get Hayden back? Would it just be his voice? And then they said that he's going to be Darth Vader. And then they said that they're going to probably fight again and take a swing at each other. And so my brain is just swirling. And I was kind of like, like you guys were saying, when Vader talks to Obi-Wan in 4, he says, the last time we met, I was but the learner, now I'm the master. And so you're like, okay.
From a certain point of view, I guess.
Yeah, you're like, okay, is this one of those, is he still technically the learner in this next iteration? But I'm down for it.
To say that.
Yeah, I think there's ways around it.
Yeah, sure.
There's a couple little lines, where he's like, I haven't felt this presence, in a long time. Or since,
he never did say since when, though.
I don't think he said like a date. Yeah, I didn't say like.
He never said since, and he just walked away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, there's a little gray area there, and I'm down for it. I like Hayden as Anakin. I think it'd be great for him to have new material to dig into. And I think they could make this really interesting. Obviously, they did Vader really well in Rogue One. Vader comic has been huge. So if we get anything like that, and Hayden's able to kind of like add to that with his acting performance, are they going to layer that in with James Earl Jones? I have no idea, but I'm really excited for all of that. I've even got throwback to Attack of the Clones. Got my Hayden cup just for the episode.
It's an angsty cup.
Yeah, he's got a lot of angst. So excited for them to bring that angst back. But I even think, just a little random speculation for this, they could even bring in some new things we've learned since then where, totally. It could be a little bit controversial, but force projecting, they don't necessarily even have to be in the same place to fight again. There's a lot of ways they could do it where Obi-Wan could be kind of haunted by Anakin in ways where he sees him in a lot of different places. There's a lot of ways they could do this, feeling each other through the Force. They've obviously both got a strong bond. I don't think they'll make them a dyad or anything like that, but I feel like if anybody could force project or kind of force Skype, the chosen one and Obi-Wan would be Jedi that could do that. So I don't know if they'll go that route or they'll actually... I don't know, like, can Vader find out about Luke? I highly doubt that. But what would cause Obi-Wan to maybe want to go back? Was he going to try to save him?
Yeah. I think, just to go off that a little bit, I think, because I've been thinking about it a lot, obviously, in the last week, and I think they're going to fight. I think that's what they want people to tune into. They want to see Vader and Obi-Wan fight. But I think something's, and this is something we've, talked about since the beginning. Something's going to take him off Tatooine.
Yeah.
Something's got to take him off planet. And I think there's rumors about Commander Cody coming back in this. So Tamara Morrison will probably, at least I've heard that he's possibly cast in this thing again. What a gig, man. He's coming back and replaying all these. And what's perfect, and again, George probably knew this, but accelerated aging, right?
Yeah.
He's going to look older, and tomorrow's older, so it fits perfect. I think that, so apparently Cody's got this whole squadron of clones that are still hunting down Obi-Wan, and I think that's the story. And I don't know what draws him off. Maybe Bail ask him to do something, or Mon Mothma. I don't know, but I think it's going to, and it's only a short. I say short, but maybe it's. I think it's 6. Is it 6? Did they say, or is it 4? I can't remember. I think.
Well, I don't think they've ever surely said it.
I thought it was rumored at 4 for a long time. Like ever since it went from being a movie to show, it was like 4 episodes that could be like much longer.
Correct.
That would be so cool.
I don't think they ever confirmed any length or anything.
Yeah, like that. But I think Hayden, if it's strange if you're gonna bring in Hayden just to play Darth Vader in an outfit. I think somehow you've got to see his face. So I still think there's flashbacks involved. But I also think that I think he could take the mask off. I think there's or do the thing where in Rebels where Obi-Wan knocks his mask, cuts his mask, and you see half his face, or I don't know. That'd be But he's got But I think the learner part could be simply that Obi-Wan beats him again in this fight. He obviously survives.
Yeah, I think you're right.
That's the only thing I can think of to solve that. I guess in a sense.
Yeah. One cool thing I did read, it was I guess some interviews with Ewan McGregor about it. He did make a mention of, one of Obi-Wan's kind of last missions is to protect, like his only mission is to protect Luke Skywalker. And like just the way he said it made me think like that could be somehow related. I don't know. Like I don't think obviously Vader's not going to find out about Luke, but I think one way to get Obi-Wan off planet would be somehow that's the way he could protect Luke is to fight the threats before they get to Tatooine.
Yeah.
If he discovers someone kind of sniffing around, maybe he then decides to go after them. I don't know, something like that. Because it reminds me, when I read that from Ewan McGregor, it reminds me that moment in Rebels when he fought, when Maul came after him, and then he wasn't, Maul wasn't going to do anything until Maul specifically called out, like, whoever you're protecting, that kind of a thing, he threatened Luke Skywalker basically. Then that's when Obi-Wan made the switch to fight him. So I feel like that's Obi-Wan's true one and only trigger at this point to get involved. But I mean, also I'm only counting the days until they announce Joel Edgerton, right, to be Owen.
Yes,
I mean, that's going to also be coming very shortly.
They got to do that comic moment, and I can't remember which Star Wars comic it was, but where it's Uncle Ben and Obi-Wan are having that argument about Luke's future, and it's like that kind of weight would be really interesting to layer in.
Yes,
I totally agree.
I mean, both those actors at this point in their careers, so it would be insane scenes.
It would be. Yes, totally agree. Okay, so we got, like you said, 10 Disney Plus series that are eventually going to land on Disney Plus. But we did get an announcement for Rogue Squadron, a Patty Jenkins film. So what do you think about that, Cody? Surprised?
I was shocked, honestly. I mean, I didn't think they were going to talk about the movies because for some reason I thought this event was mostly Disney Plus focused, which it kind of was in a way. But yeah, I couldn't believe A, that they talked about the movies, and then B, that now Patty Jenkins is directing a Star Wars movie. And not only is she doing that, it's before the Taika movie, which I think we all had assumed wrongly now that it was the 2023 movie. And then which I think this is what I like to hear, as opposed to so-and-so is doing a movie. They have concretely an announcement to go with the person's name. Patty Jenkins is doing a Rogue Squadron movie. Like, there's a plan in place. She's already been developing it. I can't believe none of the trades broke this because, I mean, Patty Jenkins is huge. Obviously, she's coming off of Wonder Woman 1984 now, which is, I think, getting good reviews. So I've seen today, I think they just started dropping reviews on that. So I think she's a great get for Star Wars and for the franchise. I was kind of, I don't know. I don't really I'm not really well versed in the Rogue Squadron books. I might go back and try to check them out now leading up to it. I mean, I think it's cool. I think at one point, I can't recall if you guys dove into this, but one of the lines they mentioned was this will take place in a future era. So most likely after Rise of Skywalker. Is what I assume future era means.
Same here. Yep.
So I think that's probably the most interesting part of this all is Kathleen Kennedy kind of made it seem like Patty Jenkins is going to transition us into the future of Star Wars. So I don't know. I assumed this was going to be like a Rogue One scale, tone-sized movie, like maybe a one-off, but now I'm not really sure after reading some of the stuff that came out after the announcement. Like, is this going to become, a start of a trilogy? Could we have implications of a character like it's Corran Horn is like the fourth Rogue Squadron member. Obviously, I think that, I don't know if they said this, but I'm sure Patty Jenkins will have a female-led character. I loved that she had the, she cares about the story. She talked about her experiences. Her father was an Air Force pilot who sacrificed his life for our country. So it seems like she's got a connection to the material, and I think that's probably just the most important thing, is finding creators that like Star Wars and want to tell Star Wars stories, but then have a connection to the kind of story they're telling. So I'm interested because of that, maybe more so than like it being a story about X-Wing pilots.
Yeah. Corn Horn, I don't know why I didn't ever think of him. That would be cool. I think to your point about Patty Jenkins taking a character like Corn Horn, and if a lot of people out there aren't familiar with him, he's actually, a lot of people don't like him as a character. The Corey from Utini, Corey Hilton doesn't like him. So
oh really? Okay.
Yeah, but I like him. So yeah, he's a force sensitive, basically rebel pilot in a sense.
He's from the Rogue Squadron novels.
He's from the X-Wing series books. Yeah,
the X-Wing
and then
series,
he had his own book called I Jedi, which that's the only book that I read of him.
And then wasn't it like I might have one of them, like New Jedi Order was like a whole series after the
that was the big one. Well, New Jedi Order was, I can't think of when the X-Wing series takes place. I want to say it's not too far from the original movies, but New Jedi Order is like sequel trilogy era, like that span.
Yeah, I think the X-Wing series is right after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, and I think, I like the idea that they're mining these now legend stories, because that makes sense. It's like they've got all this great material. You don't have to adapt it 1-to-1, which I think Patty Jenkins already said. It's obviously not going to be like the video game, but I think that's where this should go. And you just kind of painted that picture, Casey, of you got this Rogue Squadron, which then leads into a new generation of Jedi if there's a Force-sensitive member of the team, or they interact with them. And then that leads us into, I don't know if it connects to anything that Rey is doing, but like a potential new Jedi Order for the future of the past the sequels. So I think I like this approach now. It seems that Disney and Star Wars is taking, where Thrawn is being brought into Mandalorian. And, obviously they're mining little bits of legends for Mandalorian characters and things like that. And now Rogue Squadron is a Legends, material that they're going to adapt, but not necessarily have to follow 1-to-1. I think that's a really cool approach.
Yeah, no, I agree too. I think it is beyond Rise of Skywalker, which obviously means that this could be a story that we don't get necessarily Jedi or obviously Sith involved and stuff like that. But it would be good to really see a Force sensitive pilot. I think that's actually realistic, and I think that's definitely could be going. Now, the big news that we didn't get, that I want your opinion on, Cody, is there's no Rian Johnson discussion here. And to be honest, I really haven't seen much discussion on social media that's, like, where's Rian Johnson? What's going on? I don't see it. I don't know if you guys have seen anything on it, but do you feel like everybody's kind of past that already?
I think a lot of people, are wanting different creators to come in, and maybe that's why they're obviously getting people like Taika, even though he started on a Mandalorian episode, and Patty Jenkins. I did see, is it today was it 3 years or 4 years since Last Jedi?
I think it's 3 years. Yeah,
2017. Yeah, 3 years.
Yep.
So I saw Rian Johnson put out a post with some behind the scenes things, and I think a lot of people still obviously have a lot of love for that movie. And especially it being like an anniversary sort of day. So I saw stuff like that. But one thing really interesting about the Patty Jenkins announcement is, after the fact, she talked about the writer and didn't name that person, but said that it was a he, so it's a man writing it, and said that she didn't want to say who it was so that he could have his own announcement. And that made me think it's somebody of note, not just like nobody we've ever heard of. Now, again, maybe in Hollywood, any writer is of note to somebody like Patty Jenkins. I don't know. I could be speculating here. But to go crazy with it is, I did see a couple people on social media say, what if Rian Johnson is writing this Rogue Squadron movie that Patty Jenkins directs?
Interesting.
I don't know how I feel about it. I feel like I liked Rian Johnson's directing better than I liked his writing. And I would rather see somebody that has a connection to this type of story material like Patty Jenkins does. I think Filoni had talked about his experience with I don't know if his grandfather or family member that was also a fighter pilot, and that led to developing Resistance. So I don't know if he has the bandwidth, but if Filoni wrote this and Patty Jenkins directed, I think it would be really cool and show that not only on the shows that they've talked about Filoni's developing, but taking a larger step. Step into a larger world, as Obi-Wan
That's
says.
interesting. I didn't hear anything about the I didn't hear anything about the writing side of it. But what's your thoughts? Do you think that Ryan's Star Wars days are over? And because the thing about it is you could, with this big of an announcement and all these upcoming, you could technically never say anything. And I don't think people would ever really think about it anymore, eventually.
I feel like that could be something that was maybe even worked into I don't know if it was like into a contract, but, the development side of, we know our experience of, in production, how many things get developed but then don't pan out or don't get made. That could be the case here where it's just, they part ways, but it never gets talked about because it isn't as earth-shattering as the Game of Thrones duo that was developing what was rumored as Old Republic, and then they pretty much left because they signed a deal with Netflix. It was like, okay, you don't have the bandwidth to work on this Star Wars potential trilogy and a Netflix series that is going to be the next like Game of Thrones or whatever. So I think that Rian Johnson, he could still do both the things that he wants to do and Star Wars, but it might not be in the best interest of Lucasfilm for him to be developing it. And if Patty Jenkins is doing a 2023 movie, Taika's doing a 2025 movie, and then you think, are either of them getting a sequel? Maybe they aren't going to go that far until they see the reception. Maybe that's the new model. I mean, now we're looking at like close to 2028, and I just don't see a Rian Johnson movie being on that plan.
Well, I wouldn't say necessarily that Rian Johnson's movies would be a theatrical thing, and also no rush to make it. Like, his ideas, I always got the impression from what little we've gotten is that his ideas are very isolated, separated from the wider saga and the wider story. So he can probably make his movie whenever Disney wants him to make it. Like, he doesn't necessarily have to wait till a certain movie to come out or a certain story to be told. So maybe they're just waiting for just a certain amount of separation, like more than 3 years away from his movies, because it was so divisive. So maybe or he's just not ready. And maybe there's no rush. And so, they were so quickly to hand him the keys to this series, maybe they're telling him, hey, when you're ready, just let us know. If he has that much of a support within Lucasfilm, maybe it is kind of in his court. But I totally would see his movies. I mean, it could come out, during the same time as the other theatrical films, just on Disney Plus. Because I think that's going to happen. I think we're going to get more movies, not just shows on Disney Plus for Star Wars, and maybe Rian Johnson will be the first wave.
I mean, if Taika's movie's not for 5 years, you could be right. His development may still be happening. I don't know when Rian Johnson's announcement was, but it hasn't been 5 years yet. And if Taika's movie, which has just recently been announced, is still 5 years out, I mean, it could still be in the plans.
Yeah, I just that is very surprising, and I didn't really think about it. That why are we just so focused on series-based content for Disney Plus? Like, why aren't we putting movies out? Because they're making original movies. I mean, they've all been Disney movies right now. Even on the Marvel side, they're all series-based shows. They're not movie-based, right? So it's interesting why they haven't, because they're pouring in. I mean, what's Mandalorian? Mandalorian's rumored to be $10-12 million an episode, right? So you're dumping $80 to $100 million a season. You could, because of the volume, I'm assuming you could make a pretty dang good movie for probably half that. And that's a couple things that I think Kathleen said in her speech that was pretty key was it's always and Bob Iger even said it too. It's all about quality. It's not about quantity. Here we want Disney Plus to resemble the theaters. It's movie quality stuff, and I think that's what they're doing. But like you said, it's why not just make movies also for Disney Plus? So it could be that. But also, did you catch it where she said, they're building more volumes in Australia and in London? So I mean, they're going to be, and the speed of this thing seems like it's just going to get shorter, I think, in time span, for production. I mean, they talked about it on the gallery. It seems like it's more pre-production than usual, but that just lessens the time of production, right? So they could be cranking. And the thing, that's what's crazy is you could spend all day on the volume doing one show and then turn it over and shoot a whole different show that night in there also. That's just crazy to think.
That's how Patty Jenkins is going to make her movies. Wonder Woman 3 is on the volume, and so is Rogue Squadron.
That's right.
Just flip on the new video background.
That's right. Yeah.
But it is like, even watching this season of Mandalorian, it's like I'm trying to look for is this the volume? Is this not? What is this? How do they do this? If this is the volume, how in the world is that possible? Seems like maybe they built a bigger stage, perhaps, but I don't know. I don't know what's real anymore.
I don't either. I really. They did show some behind the scenes. I've seen some behind the scenes shots of. I think it was episode 3 of this season when he goes to Trask, and when they first get off the ship and they're on that dock. It's all it's there's most of it's practical where he's standing, but then it's all obviously volume around it. And man, it is so good. It's incredible. So yeah, I think movies. I mean, I think it'd just be ideal to do movies. And Rian Johnson, that is a good spot for him. I think that would actually make sense. I would say I don't see him as the writer of this, but I do think Filoni or maybe even Favreau could be the writer on something like this. Dare I say it? There's no way George could write that, could he? Because he's in the fighter pilots and all that stuff. But
I'll make one guess, and this is a long shot. Some people may know the name. He was a writer on Rogue One, but there were multiple writers because it went through a couple iterations. Gary Whitta, I think, did the first draft of Rogue One, and then shared some writing credit with another guy who I forget, and then Tony Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy came in later, right?
The final pass, and then obviously some of the directing pass off. But Gary Whitta also comes from the video game background, writing, reviewing, and actually writing for video games. So really interesting connection there to the X-Wing games, and the Rogue One, and then the Rogue Squadron. So I think he would be a great fit. Obviously, he already wrote for Star Wars, but that wouldn't be as I don't know. I mean, maybe just an announcement. Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like you would just announce that with Patty Jenkins, and of course, she would overshadow him because of her success. Yeah, but I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah. Interesting. They didn't announce who the writer was. So maybe, I mean, it's still, like you said, in treatment phase, so they don't even have probably a full script yet for the movie. So probably wait until they have a script until they actually announce the writing credit. So. All right. More, I'm sure we'll talk in the coming weeks. It seems like the Bad Batch will be the next series that gets dropped. That seems like the most ready. It seems like the only new one we are going to get 2021, because Andor has already been announced to be 2022. Obi-Wan doesn't even shoot until March. And who knows when the other ones are shooting. There have been rumors, there's some other podcasts, Star Wars podcasts that are dropping that there is some kind of series getting shot. There's one out there that claims that a Boba Fett series is actually in production, and why they didn't announce it. I don't think that's true. I think it's what's been shot from The Mandalorian may have been mistaken, because it seems like Boba Fett is hanging around, which I think is great news. I actually really like where that's going. So let's get into that next episode, Chapter 15, The Believer. which means, Cody, you're probably going to have to repaint your helmet back there, because Boba Fett got a little paint job in this episode as well.
That's a lot of buffing out.
Well, I think he just repainted his outfit.
Does he just keep like a spray gun in the slave one?
I think he had to do a pit stop somewhere and drop it off for a couple hours, get redone. He's got a guy. Yeah. He's got some sand people back at Tatooine that does some favors for him. Okay, so The Believer, chapter 15 brings back Mayfeld, character we got introduced to in season 1, on a mission to find the location of Gideon's starship so that they can go save Grogu. So, Casey, overall impression, what'd you think about this episode?
It was a lot of fun. Just what we've been saying the past couple weeks. I feel like anything is possible in these episodes now. With going from Ahsoka to Boba Fett. So I'm just thinking, like, I thought the story was picking up so much speed. And talking, and like when Grogu made the call, I thought, well, I wouldn't be surprised if this episode someone answered the call. Like, if we're just going to keep moving fast, and then like another big cameo appearance would happen, or a big character appearance would happen. That didn't happen. This felt very much in line with another fun episode like earlier in the season. So kind of like a mix a little bit. Like for one, it's like, oh, it wasn't as of a forward pushing episode, narratively speaking, necessarily they only had to do one little thing. It just took, again, this is one of those episodes that had to do a whole massive mission to get, one little piece of information. So, it didn't push the story too much further, but it was still, I think it was a lot of fun. Like the Mad Max type of, chase was a lot of fun. And, Mayfeld, that character, that comedian, Bob Burr, right? Bill Burr, he's awesome. I think it was a much needed comedic relief in this season, but and like he like raised some good points. He had like all his scenes where he was conversing and talking to Mando, like he brought up a lot of good points, and then showing another layer to his character. Like I was more so blown away by his character, like thinking like, wow, this guy, like, I want to see more of him. Like I hope he comes back. And of course Mando, taking off the helmet, didn't expect that. So there were some good surprises in this episode, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, not quite the episode I was expecting. That's not necessarily a bad thing for me. Right.
Yeah, a couple points on that before I get to you, Cody. Is I think I'm with you, and one thing I tend to think about sometimes when you watch an episode like this, when Mayfeld says, I need to get to an officer's station, I need to plug in there and get, and I sometimes keep thinking to one of my favorite shows of all time, Smallville. And I think whenever they want information, they just hack.
Yeah.
And then they get the information. Like Chloe just does some things and then gets the information. Is there no hacking in Star Wars where you would just go find a hacker?
You need to call DJ.
Yeah. Well, even DJ had to be there, right?
Sure.
He had to be there to slice in. But why couldn't somebody like just stand next to a terminal and just like and get the information, and then you walk out and no one even knows you're there? Anyway,
it's more primitive than what we have.
There's more action involved.
A long time ago, Dave.
Yeah, it is a long time ago. They haven't reached that.
They haven't developed the World Wide Web yet.
That's right. Yeah.
It's all local area networks.
Yeah. So there's that, and I agree with you. There are some good points about, because this episode easily could have been just that action episode, very similar to, I think we're kind of referring to episode 2 of this season, where just a little bit of an action, not really driving the story forward. But to me, this episode was centered around Bill Burr's character Mayfeld, and that's what really. And it took the second showing and the third showing to really draw me in, that a lot of things that he said was really good. And then, of course, when you get to that conversation when he's having with Hess, and he's talking about Operation Cinder and what he's been through, I'm like, wow, this got serious, man. And this is you can see, very good actor. You can see the pain in his eyes. So I thought that really made the episode really good, because if it wasn't for that, I think it could have been a forgettable episode, to be honest. So,
yeah, and
Cody, what do you think?
Dan having his helmet off, his like looks that he would give him,
yes.
like I'm so glad he had his helmet off in that scene to see his acting. Yeah, sorry.
No, Cody, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree with you guys. I was kind of like you, Dave, where first viewing I thought, okay, good episode, solid. I didn't, love it, or it wasn't like a bad episode, or it didn't seem like filler. But then I watched it a second time, actually just recently, yesterday. And it really started to I started to really dig into the themes. I feel like this was playing on challenging beliefs, not just Mayfeld, because a lot of his backstory kind of came into play here. Ex-Imperial, where is he now? And then you get to see, oh wow, he didn't believe like all the other Imperials in what they were doing, and Operation Cinder was obviously terrible, and they were just like massacring people and planets. And it really bothered him, like it physically on his face. You could see before he made the decision to shoot the officer, like how much it bothered him. I just love the acting. I thought he did a great job. Couldn't believe that performance out of Bill Burr, to be honest. But then I loved how, you guys talked about the comedic lines. This episode seemed to balance comedy, action, and serious moments. And I really hope for more of that in this episode and future Star Wars with the people they get to either direct or the actors, because I feel like Bill Burr was able to challenge Din on multiple levels. He was kind of joking with him about, wearing his armor, and it's like, which is it? Can you not take off your Mando helmet, or can you not show your face? And then you're kind of like, oh, us as audience have always been like, okay, why is he the only Mando that's doing this besides like this little, Children of the Watch sort of cult? And then, obviously he takes the helmet off, and you see that it's, Din without the armor. It shows who he really is, right? He'll do what it takes for Grogu. Before in season 1, like he wouldn't necessarily do that. And it really shows his growth. I love that it just challenged like his version of the way. Mayfield was challenged to be in this moment to reconcile, his Imperial past that he didn't agree with fully. And then you show, like, on the flip side is this Imperial officer who has been through this, whole galactic war, and they lost, yet he doesn't waver in his belief.
Yeah.
So it's like these 3 different levels of and that's where I really felt like the title of Believer. At first I was like, what is this title about? And the second viewing, I really started to understand the themes they were really trying to, put in front of us. And I just really liked that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I'm sure people caught this, but this, besides the Ahsoka episode, this is the only other episode so far not written by Jon Favreau, right? Written by Rick, is it Famuyiwa? I think is. I probably butchered it every time. So directed and written by, and I thought there were really good written moments in this. Like you said, great balance. And a good tie back, because when he's talking to Mando in the Juggernaut, he's saying, "Look, whatever you believe in, we all believe in different things, but in the end, we got to go to bed at night." And then when he fires that cycler rifle and destroys, like, I need to go to bed at night. It's like it's a great wrap up. I think we got a lot of his character in this. I do hope we get him back, but we did learn a lot from him and solve a lot for him in this. So I think that was it was a good episode, a good way, unbelievably way, I think, to bring him in, but then not make him a forgettable character. Yeah, like they've done. I feel like they've done a little bit in the past before. So, so let's talk about real quick. What do you guys think of? Because I want to talk about Boba Fett. I want to talk about his role so far in this show. Do you feel like, because I gotta admit, ever since the rumor came out that Boba Fett was going to show up, I started to just keep blowing. I started blowing it off, thinking like, there's no way they're going to bring this guy back. That's too big of a character. It's going to start overshadowing Mando. But I don't know. I don't think I feel that way anymore. I feel like there is a purpose for him, and I feel like they're doing a good job just showing him at key moments and not really focused on him. What do you, Casey? Where do you land with what they're doing with Boba, and what do you think his future involvement is going to be?
Yeah, this episode really made me think, like, oh, so is Boba just going to be just a second, well, not even second fiddle? Like, is he just going to be just a, member of the crew?
He's the getaway car.
Yeah, he's just, where's the van? Where's the slave one? So they'll, but his moments are awesome. Gosh, with the sonic missile that was, oh my gosh, that was so cool. But and I love his new paint job he got. But I keep thinking though, like I wouldn't be surprised if he's just playing a long game right now for something. I don't know what, because is he really just like what's his? I think there's more we had to learn about him, and whether it's some show we may never get, who knows, or books. Like, I want to know what has been his mission since we last saw him. Like, what did he spend his time? Has he just been just a lost soul this whole time, and now he finally has a little mission that he can cling to? Like, that kind of thing, like a Luke Skywalker, but for the bounty hunters. Like, is he just like this guy who just gave up everything? But I don't know. It's like you have to always think, like, is he playing something still? That's kind of what I initially thought when he decided to join Mando. I'm like, so he's just gonna help out Mando on saving this. It's a very good thing he's doing, selfless thing he's doing. But this is Boba Fett. Like, we always heard he's a ruthless bounty hunter. Unless something has changed in him. So I do love how he's been incorporated into the show. I just always in the back of my mind I'm thinking, like, there might be something else to him, and I'm sure I'm not the only person to be thinking this, but I just wouldn't be surprised if maybe not this season, maybe the end of the season, who knows? Even though we only have one episode left, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a taste of still some kind of villainous side of him soon. But we'll see.
What do you think, Cody?
Man, I'm just sort of left thinking, like, after what you said, Casey, like, if he double crosses Mando and like something like even worse happens with Grogu, I'm gonna be so mad. First off, I was not a fan of the paint job. I do have to say, I think when it's like something's like old and beat up, it looks better. Yeah. Nothing to do with having to buy more merchandise at all. Yeah. I don't know. I just thought like the new matte paint, like it's like, oh, hang on, we got to go get Grogu back, but let me go paint my armor real quick. Yeah. You guys cool to just hang out in the Slave One? Yeah. Anyway, some of those weird like choices, like when Luke changes his clothes, I'm just like, you don't have time to change clothes. This is Star Wars. But I don't know. I think there is more, like you said, for Boba to do. Than just be the driver, be a part of the crew, like a side character. I really hope, I really hope there's implications to, his Mandalorian heritage. I always thought that Boba could play as, an enemy ally or a mentor. But I really wonder if some of that slight mentorship, or if he does, somehow gets pitted against Din, I wonder if it would come by way of, future season, they're all trying to get back Mandalore, or there's sort of a power struggle to be the next Mandalore or for the Darksaber. So I think that would be an interesting role for him to have, to maybe future seasons, him, Din, and Bo-Katan. I think I would like it actually if they somehow shifted it to where they're kind of a little bit more like an infighting between them for power once they finally reclaim Mandalore, so to speak. But I don't know if they'll go that route with this show.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Yeah. I don't mind the paint job. I'm not too fond of what he decided to wear underneath right now.
Oh, really?
No.
I like it better than what he had on when he first put it on.
Yes.
At least it's like a look, not just.
But it's,
roll out of bed, throw on your armor.
I don't know, and I don't think I would have, and I'm okay with not going back to the classic look, but at least something that resembles more of a Mandalorian, because I Like I think something else would have made him look a little bit better, but that's what I was expecting this episode, not necessarily a paint job, but something better underneath. Okay, I don't have to wear this big old cloth robe anymore.
He just needs to go back to the armor, melt down that pike he has and make some new plates.
Make some new coverings. Yes.
Yeah.
So any quick predictions on this season finale? I mean, I think everybody, at least I did, I think I anticipated more of a 2-part finale like we did last season, but that didn't happen. So I'm hoping that this next episode is a little longer. Maybe we'll get a 50-minute finale. I mean, do you think, what do you think is going to happen? The only thing I can think of is one thing we've heard is Giancarlo, who plays Moff Gideon, has mentioned that he had some saber training, that he's gone through several, sticks of Darksaber training. So he's got to use it, I think, in this episode. Does he use it? I guess the assumption was maybe against Ahsoka. I don't think that's going to happen. Probably against Din, I guess. But I don't know. The only thing I can lean on that I think is going to happen is I'm thinking that it's going to end up being a 2-parter, except the second part is going to be the premiere of next year.
Jeez, like a super cliffhanger.
Yes, I think that's where we're heading towards.
Oh man,
I hate to say it, but I think that's where we're going to. What do y'all think about that, or what do y'all think about what you're going to see? Cody,
sorry, real quick, I gotta plug my laptop in. So Casey, you take this one. I'm gonna mute real fast. Sorry, I didn't do that before.
I don't mind that, but there has to be some wrap up. You can't because we talked about where it's like last season did a good job with it wrapped up that little bit of that story of getting Grogu, protecting Grogu, and then obviously pushing Imperials off of supposedly off of Navarro. Where this one seems to be, at least as long as they get back Grogu, and then I don't know. I think you have to. I mean, it's hard to say right now while I'm talking. Is like what has been the arc of this season. It has, obviously it's the quest. I think that's one way to think of it, is the quest. But, I feel like that ended after Ahsoka. And then the last thing was this call Grogu made. So is that, to me, that's not quite the arc that would satisfy the end of the series. I do think, and, that someone's going to answer the call, but I don't think that necessarily is going to put a cap on this, that's not going to wrap up the story of the season. I don't think. For me, it's confronting obviously Gideon again and defeating him once again, seemingly, maybe. So if they do break this up, there has to be, I don't know, some kind of closure maybe still with the whole battle between Gideon and the crew, which I don't know if that's possible while also breaking it up. So I hope that they don't do that, because to me, I feel like that's hard. I can't imagine what that would look like, because I just don't see them splitting the story and not having that much of a closure. But I do hope it's a longer episode. And to your point, I do hope it's, because one thing though that the season has done well, I think, is although not every episode has progressed the overall story too far, each episode to me has had a good rounded narrative within it. Talk about the believer. It's like, even though these episodes aren't too long still, I still felt like I got a lot out of most of these episodes. Whether it's an individual character or it's been an overall narrative push. But 50 minutes I think will be plenty of time to wrap up this season. I don't know if we're going to get into who's going to answer the call just yet, but are we talking about that now too? Because I feel like that's a big.
Well, you can bring it into this, but so do you think that's gonna? Do you think that's coming in this episode?
I do. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be a cliffhanger, but I think it definitely could be. Talking about fighting Gideon in the saber fight that he says he's had, it could be a Jedi still. Whoever's going to answer the call, it could be Mando. The pike clearly withstands lightsabers, so he could definitely fight him with that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be saber on saber, but But I do think, I think all bets are off. It's just, someone's going to come. It's going to be a cool character, and it's just going to be amazing.
All right, Cody.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I agree with you guys. I hope it's a long episode. I hope there's, some kind of tease to who Grogu was calling. I mean, I kind of feel like I want them to wrap up this, like Din has to get Grogu back. My worry is that they tease this to be like, I think it was like an Entertainment Weekly article and like an Empire Strikes Back type season. I really worry that they're going to end this season and Grogu might not be returned to Din. I think that's my biggest fear. I feel like it's very possible. Or maybe he saves him, but something is lost along the way. So I don't know if that's like, as small as like he is fighting him with that Beskar spear, and the Darksaber like destroys all of his armor and he's like exposed again because they're setting up like him taking what does he wear under there now? They're setting up like him taking off the helmet and he's already done it once in a less climactic moment, but still like it had importance for like his mission, right? His connection and his attachment to Grogu. I would love it if in this battle that it's Din versus Gideon, Beskar spear versus Darksaber, and the Darksaber is proven to like cut through Beskar maybe and like destroys his helmet or part of it, and he's sort of exposed in a way to a foe, which would further kind of cement like him losing a bit of to him his Mandalorian identity, or maybe like he has to like just overcome something like and fighting without the helmet or something that would just really like break down like his inner sort of like mantra or whatever. I think that would be cool, like just like visually, aesthetically. But yeah, I mean, I hope that he saves Grogu. I wonder if somebody else on the crew or in this battle is going to be lost. Thinking about the Empire Strikes Back type ending, like somebody might lose a hand. I don't know. But, I worry about some of the tertiary characters like Fennec Shan. I don't think Boba would be.
No way. You can't.
Killed off this soon, but in a sacrifice way, it could be impactful. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I just don't know what they're going to throw at us. I hope that the tease at the end is, I hope it's the Jedi answering the call, or at least that there was a Jedi answering the call. I wonder if it's going to be more along the lines of like the Thrawn buildup, though, because they already laid that seed.
Right.
I wonder if it's going to go more of like the villain that could be pulling the strings beyond Gideon. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that's a good point because the series. Two of the series that got announced, which was Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic, are said to tie into The Mandalorian, and all three are moving towards a climactic ending event, right? Very similar to Endgame, you can kind of reference it to in a sense. So what could that be? We got tons of time to speculate on that. I part of me feels like it is looking like it could be a Thrawn. It could be, I think we talked about it, which is great, is actually pulling those elements from the Thrawn trilogy and creating that as the big bad, him as the big bad. So then it does come back down to, it's the Jedi. How much can the Jedi be involved in this story? How much can the call that Grogu made, could it get answered? It may not get answered. Is it in the Ahsoka story that gets answered? There's so much to dive into. I think as I more and more I think about it, as we get into talking about it now, I still think the big reveal is I still think it's got to be someone like Luke. I think I feel like they're trying to figure out how to make that work. I don't think it happens in this episode. I think that's could be setting up for what season 3 could be about. The answer and how much involved this Jedi that comes in. So first off, let's just name who's at the top of your list. Actually, who do you right now believe is going to make an appearance in this as answering the call? Cody?
I've changed my tune on this a bit since we last talked. I would love Luke to show up. I think it'd be amazing. I think there's a lot of ways they could do it to where it could be Mark Hamill's voice and not really showing him. I've heard people speculate as to like a holocron. You can easily just throw the robe on him and then you don't even have to really cast anybody. Or not yet, just kind of punt it out in season 3. Lately, though, I'm honestly thinking they might do something more close to home. So we've already seen Ahsoka. She already kind of refused the call to train Grogu, but I don't think she would refuse to help someone in need. And if she heard that call and knew the circumstances around it, I would think that she would want to help save Grogu from danger or Din, who she just met and helped, her. So I don't know. I just feel like lately, as I go through the list of names, there's like a couple people I feel like are kind of like off limits, so to speak. Like I'll just go ahead and throw out one other. Ezra. Yeah. I just don't. I think he would be perfect for this show and this timeline and Filoni's involvement. I just don't think it's the time yet because it seems like there is going to be a journey that Ahsoka and Sabine are on to find him. Yes. And it probably is tied with Thrawn. So if he just popped up out of nowhere, you'd be like, "Oh, he's back." Yeah, cancel that other show because we don't need to find him anymore.
We already made it. Good job.
Yeah. So you're saying it's Ahsoka? You think it's Ahsoka?
I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think it's going to be maybe less mysterious as it's made out to be, and like she wouldn't have to then take over the show. She's already proven she can come in, help out, or be a part of it, and then go off her own way. And then now she's got her own show. So what a great tie-in if this show is getting greenlit and in the pipeline to come in the next year or two. If she comes in, the end of this season potentially in a big way. Right. I don't know if it would be too much like, what is it, like Deus Ex Machina, where somebody comes in. Save the day, but Grogu can also use the Force in a big way, and he's kind of done. So
interesting. I feel like we're hitting like the big spectrums here of like Ahsoka, who is very likely and like kind of to me like a safe person to answer because we've already seen her. Luke is like I would love Luke, but that's like to me the extreme limit of who's the craziest person they can pull in, and it would be Luke. But like, because the coolest thing would be if it was Luke, that would be like a good cliffhanger moment. Or like you said, Cody, you have to cast a person. All you would see is go back to that rock, and you would just see a cloaked person with a black gloved hand, walk up to it. It's like, oh, no one's here, like kind of a moment. But if it was Ahsoka, I would love it if she came. She would have, I feel like she would have to come earlier in the episode, and then she could very well be the person to fight Gideon, or just help out. But like I guess I'm gonna go maybe considered middle of the road where I've actually started to think of Cal Kestis more and more. I think that would be really cool. And then even during us talking, like I'm thinking a little bit more because Cody, you mentioning how his lightsaber is going to be part of the legacy of Batu. They did that with Ahsoka, and now here she is. It's like laying out these little pieces of groundwork to bring these characters in. So it's like the timing seems right, or if they're going to put out. I almost said Ezra, put out Cal's lightsaber to be, at Batu, they'll premiere him in this show to kind of reveal that. And I think there's definitely, if you're putting him in this era, you're obviously leaving a chunk of time to tell stories of him with other games, which then we get into that point of like, well, if you're going to tell a story in between the game and Mandalorian, obviously he survives all that crap, which that's a problem, but that doesn't obviously prevent them from doing it already. So but I think that would be pretty cool. I mean, I've run through so many other names. Obviously Mace Windu was a fan favorite. I thought of even like the Bendu or someone like the Bendu from Rebels, like a middle of the road type of Force user. or a villain could answer the call. If it's necessarily, or multiple people could answer it. Like a couple Jedi, because why does it mean only one person has to answer it? If he's just putting a big wide net out there, I think that could be a good setup for the next season of who is answering or who more than one person is answering.
That's interesting.
Maybe early in the episode we get Ahsoka or someone early to answer the call. Then at the very end, it teases who else is answering the call.
Like what implications does Grogu using the Seeing Stone have? Not just on the light side of the Jedi, but now any other Force user or dark side user could potentially know that he's out there.
Yeah,
that could be a way to like make this a much bigger, like you talked about, Dave. They're wanting to do like a lead up event with all these shows. Like Grogu could be like this inciting incident of like, I'm here now. Any Force user converge on this point, and that have a lot of interesting implications. I like the idea of Cal. I wasn't like thinking as much about it, but when you mention it, obviously the Seeing Stone has the same ancient language or whatever that they used in Fallen Order promotional material and stuff, and I think it's also on the Ahsoka logo, some World Between Worlds stuff. So I think that's kind of cool. And Cal has that power that Quinlan Voss has, where he touches objects and
like
can
echoes,
sense echo or something, where he can like I guess feel and like see what has happened or transpired like previously.
So he can track him down.
He could go to the Seeing Stone and touch it and know everything that happened to Grogu and Din. That's I mean, I didn't really think about it until you mentioned his name.
So I'm going to bring up. I'm going to do a complete 180 on this conversation because. And we could probably squash this really quickly, but I just bringing up the World Between Worlds. Yes, the Ahsoka logo very much resembles that. I mean, is it even a remote possibility that Filoni could go down the path of introducing that into this series, or even maybe the Ahsoka series? Is it possible that Grogu? Well, no, never mind. I was about to say, is it possible that Grogu? I was going to say, is something somehow involved in the World Between Worlds? Like, is that...
He's actually young Yoda?
Was he
a different name?
Well, at first I was about to think that. I was thinking that could he be a young Yoda? But if he knows his name, if he knows his name is Grogu, maybe it's not. But that's kind of where I was going with it. Or it could be somebody that was... if that species doesn't really exist, was it plucked out of the past somehow?
Interesting.
But let's just talk about the World Between Worlds.
Very sci-fi.
Is that something that could actually get introduced, do you think, in this series? Case?
I don't know about this series. I mean, possibly. Sure. I think next season, possibly, if they, again, depending on who answers the call and if it's more than one. I think that's part of Filoni's storytelling journey is to expand our ideas of the Force, and he's only scratched the surface so many times, and fans are screaming for him to hit on the Mortis episodes again, and again like the Bendu, or even the idea of War Between Worlds again. Like, people really want him to keep telling those kind of stories. I think he will. Maybe not this series. If it is, I would say next season. I think because it was on the Ahsoka poster, I think you have to at least talk about it. Even if it's like just to give a glimpse of how Ahsoka got here, and you talk about World Between Worlds. I think it would most likely be her show, but unless something happens in this next episode to change my mind, that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Cody, thoughts on that?
I like where you're going with it, because it is very sci-fi, like you said. It kind of makes you, it's making my wheel spin of like, they said somebody saved Grogu, right? And they said that he was taken from the temple. I'm trying to recall all the lines around it, if this speculation would actually check out. But I mean, the World Between Worlds doesn't always have to mean somebody starting somewhere and then going to the past. Somebody from the past or future could have saved Grogu from his current circumstances and dropped him back into a similar timeline and not been a part of his his Grogu's future.
Yes.
So it's not to say that whoever saved him doesn't obviously have to be this Jedi that answers the call, but there could be a link, and the Jedi who saved him could be someone that we haven't met from the future, or Jedi from the past, or I mean, there's a lot of options that the World Between Worlds brings up. Now the limitations are a lot. They're endless.
They're endless,
really.
yeah.
I mean, as far as Jedi who could interact with the World Between Worlds, which I think that limits it a little bit, but.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I like that idea, Dave.
I mean, Grogu could even be making the call through the World Between Worlds. Who knows? I mean, it's so vague. It's just Filoni can make it however way he wants to make it at this point.
Well, that force power was so cool because it was like this meditation.
Like,
I mean, we've heard of battle meditation, but like Din couldn't get through it, and it like shot it back. I mean, obviously, either Grogu has a lot of power, or this particular seeing stone does open up this sort of portal that is, invulnerable to.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
Yeah, I think it feels almost like a protection force field in a sense, right? As you're doing whatever he was doing, making the call. So how much are we worried, if at all, that again another Jedi could be involved, or it could be a repeat Jedi like Cal Kestis, but it could be a brand new Jedi that comes in. I don't know. If we think there are going to be a Jedi coming in, are we at all worried? Is anybody worried that it does possibly start to diminish the whole thought of Luke being the last Jedi? Now, I know he's the last Jedi when the last Jedi comes out, 30 years later. But at this point, it was always understood that he was the last Jedi in Return of the Jedi. But, obviously Ahsoka's still out there. And it doesn't have to be a full-fledged Jedi, but even somebody that is using the Force, that has a lightsaber, and is out there fighting as a Jedi in a sense. I don't know. Are you at all? Because personally, I think it's okay that. To me, it's okay to think that when he finally goes to Ahch-To because he's disgraced of what happened with Ben and all that stuff, like that to me could be that he is the last Jedi at that point. Because technically all that were being trained were killed. I mean, maybe there's still going to be some force sensitive kids out there, and a whole crop of Jedi can be retrained. But ones that were getting trained at the time, that was probably the end of it there. But so I'm okay with it. I was getting your opinion on that case.
Well, I mean, I just would say don't limit to what could possibly happen, because I mean, goodness, for one thing, the term "The Last Jedi," I mean, that's such a, if anything, that is such a point of view, from a certain point of view type of line. Because Ahsoka, Ezra's definitely out there, has been out there, and I would say he's a Jedi. I mean, come on, it's like. If he wasn't a Jedi Knight or whatever, but like he's a Jedi. Ahsoka, I mean, Grogu is out there during that time too. He just has not really been trained much at all. So he's a Padawan learner. He's a youngling, whatever you want to call him. And then who knows? I mean, whoever else answers the call, if it's someone new. So there's definitely Jedi out there. It's just, what's the point of view of that phrase? It's like, I guess whoever is active and practicing and involved with the galaxy, and right now that was Yoda, now it's Luke, and so that would almost be the same situation in the sequel trilogy. Like, there's no one else who's kind of actively, involved in the galaxy during the era of the sequel trilogy besides Luke, and then now it's Rey. So saying that, I still don't think it's without a shroud of possibility that, for one, Ahsoka could still be alive. We've heard that tease from Filoni already. Again, if Cal Kestis is involved in this and he's alive, I think he could still be around. I mean, I think there's tons of room that they can wiggle themselves in there to say, like, these Jedi are still around, and they're going to help us carry into the next era of Star Wars or whatever that is. But because who knows, from the Rise of Kylo oh my gosh, Rise of Kylo Ren comic, we saw a few students left, and then that was, we saw Kylo, destroy them. But I would not be surprised if there were other masters even that escaped for, Kylo Ren didn't catch them or anything like that, because those 3 students were out already. They were coming in to see the destruction. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if there are other ones out there to get that call, or to know what was happening, and to not get to the temple to be trapped by Kylo. So I still think I think there has to be more Jedi out there. I think it's just a necessity for these stories to continue on. So, but yeah,
interesting. Cody?
Yeah, I'm learning to let go. I feel like initially, when this new phase of Star Wars content started, and even with Rebels, I was a little apprehensive to like other Jedi around Luke's era, especially.
Can't sit with us.
Yeah, but like now I'm learning, only Sith deal in absolutes. I'm still learning the ways of the Force. I feel like I don't want to limit it, like Casey's saying, and I think that when you do limit it, then I think you set yourself up to be disappointed potentially. But I think there's so many ways they can weave the story in a way that makes sense. Of course, Ezra's a Jedi, but he's in the unknown regions, right? Luke wouldn't have known what's going on in the unknown regions. Sure. He was in a dark place and cut off from the Force. So how would he know what other Jedi or Force sensitives were even out there, let alone in the unknown regions? And you can make the case that Ahsoka, Jedi, not Jedi. She acts like a Jedi, but doesn't call herself one.
She's like labels.
Yeah. She doesn't like labels. You could have any Force sensitive. You could have somebody who hasn't tapped into their Force sensitivity and is older, right? Maybe Grogu's call awakens something in someone like Rey was, and now we potentially get a new character. I do think the new character being a Jedi makes it a little challenging, because even adding in one of these Jedi we talked about takes a little bit away from Din's connection and attachment to Grogu. I really want to explore that more. I think they've done a great job so far this season, and I'd love to see them break the mold of the Jedi that we knew in the Republic, and even the Old Republic or High Republic, where they talked about attachment being bad. I think Grogu could prove that attachment isn't, similarly to how Luke does, in Return of the Jedi. So I think I'd be fine with it, including other Jedi.
Yeah, and I think that brings up a good segue too, because I think, if we really think about what is the definition of a Jedi at this point, right? Because you do have Cal Kestis, that was a Padawan that survived. You do have Ezra, who is trained by a Padawan that survived, right? Mm-hmm. You have Ahsoka, who is a Padawan that never made it to knighthood before she left the Order, right? Those, if I recall, the only ones we're really talking about, right? That we know. Of course, Obi-Wan and Yoda were out there during the original trilogy, but they had passed by this point. So, it's safe. I think it's safe to say, now we don't know though, if there were survivors still around, even during the original trilogy, and even maybe at this point, did they ever train anybody? Did they ever seek to train anybody? Kanan was very much is leaving that part of his life behind until Ezra came around. And then it was like, well, I need to train this kid, because he has that potential. And so it'd be interesting to see those stories, because that's basically where we're going with this, right? We're going to this same type of story with Kanan, that a Jedi hears this call and realizes, wow, there is a powerful being out there that needs guidance in this. And that's where it, to me, gets really interesting, because I do embrace the opportunity that there are other survivors of the original Order, because I think that's what you have to have in order to progress the next Order, right? Luke thankfully was able to train Rey, which ultimately we now believe will be the ultimate trainer to the next generation of Jedi beyond Episode 9, right? Because if you have that gap where, the old order does truly end, how does the new order start besides just reading a bunch of old Jedi texts and not having that one-on-one comparison, unless you can train through Force Ghosts, right? I mean, I guess that's a possibility. But it's interesting to think that there are survivors out there that are taking it upon themselves to train the next generation, even though they don't really know if it's going to go anywhere. And they're doing it not knowing that Luke is out there, right? So, because I think, for a while, we were just kind of trained to think that Luke is it. He's the one that has to start this thing, whereas it's not necessarily the case. And who's to say that through this story or through some other story that Luke doesn't finally run into other masters, like you said, or other Jedi Knights and then they are actually the ones that help him start building his Jedi Academy, right? So that would be actually a pretty good story and a pretty good because what we do know of Luke right now is he is searching. He's trying to find other temples. He's trying to find artifacts, even Sith artifacts. He's trying to find, uncover all of Palpatine's hidden locations. There's just so much content there that I hope they get into, and I think that would really. That's why I'm just pulling for Luke to be that character in this, because I think there's just so much we didn't get of Luke in the sequel trilogy that I think we need to get sometime, somehow. So
it would provide a lot of closure. I agree. I feel like you kind of hinted on something. It's like, what kind of inspired or turned Luke from his sort of crusade of like artifacts to then train the next generation? I mean, I know Ben played a large role in Leia needing him to be trained, properly, was like an inciting incident to it. But then what allowed him or helped him to start to find other force sensitive children potentially? Could this call of Grogu be something that sparks that interest or allows him to see like, wow, there are other force sensitives that need Luke, that need his help? I think that would be a really cool way to tie it all in.
That'd be crazy. He's so if you think he shows up, if he will answer the call, like, is he going to stick around in this show? Is he going to jump to another? Is he going to be a secondary character in someone else's show, or is this the start of a spinoff that just hasn't been announced yet? That's the thing. Boba Fett can work as this part of the crew kind of guy. Luke, I mean, it's good, but like, you are gonna always, like, if he's like a secondary character, you're always gonna be watching like, what's he gonna do now? Like, you are gonna, unfortunately, I think about him more often than you are the main character, which is Din.
Yeah.
So it would be challenging, but not impossible.
I think part of me feels like, I know this whole thing started with the discovery of Grogu, but I can't imagine now, especially with these new shows, if there's this climactic event that we're building up to, I just don't see that being anything to do fully with Grogu. Like the discovery of Grogu and him getting to where he should be, whether that's with his own species or with the Jedi. I think that mission has to come to an end at some point during the show run, and it continues still about Mando. I think this is a big part of his character, and the point that will make him a little more compassionate, that will make him see that the creed that he took might not be the best, might not be what it's all about. Could be the Mandalorian way could be a different way, which I think Boba and Bo-Katan could lend itself into him. And I think it ultimately could be about where does Din belong? And maybe it is about him returning to, if he really truly believes in Mandalore, maybe it is about establishing Mandalore. Because I think that was a big plot to reveal that Bo-Katan is doing, trying to get the Darksaber back, which is tied to it. Ultimately, possibly tied to Thrawn. I think that's a big plot to reveal and not announce a show about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's not a Bo-Katan show about her going back to try to win Mandalore back. I think it's part of this show. I think it will. I think the Mandalorian is going to be about establishing Mandalore eventually. So I think Luke could come in and actually we see him take Grogu possibly out of the show. I don't know if everybody wants to see that, but I would be okay with that.
I'd be okay with it. I just wouldn't be. I mean, I just always assumed he would stick around for the whole thing. It's like he's just. It's a father-son story. So, but I would be fine if he went to something else. Like, that was fully when him and Ahsoka had their moments. I was like, oh great! Like I'm fully on board now with the Ahsoka Grogu show. Like I want to see that. But I mean, I think any of those things are possible.
Yeah, I feel like there needs to be a little more time before Grogu would, if he does exit this show, because him and Din, there still is more, I think, for Din to discover within himself and Grogu and vice versa. I actually feel like Grogu could be more important to one of the like sort of lead up events. Thinking about the implications of Thrawn, I feel like if I'm not mistaken, traveling to the unknown regions is not easy. That's why a lot of people haven't done it. And Grogu provides a way, whether it's somebody using him, like on the Empire side, Moff Gideon, or our heroes finding a way. Grogu may be a way to help navigate to the unknown regions, maybe essential to that travel, unlocking like where Ezra and maybe where Thrawn is. So I feel like there could be maybe like another thing that the quest sort of like diverts away maybe before getting him to a Jedi that would train him. But I do think that would be the goal, is to eventually give him to a Jedi. And I would hope that if that happens before the finale, there would be sort of like a season or an arc where the Mandalorians, like Din, restores Mandalore if it exists. I know that Bill Burr's character Mayfeld said he used it in the same sentence as Alderaan, which Alderaan does not exist. So I hope Mandalore still exists. But I think there could be a way to keep Grogu around, but then still maybe in this show with the Mandalorian potentially becoming like the new Mandalore. And sort of like hit both of those in a long game, sort of thing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. And I think, look, I think my number 2 option that answered to Jedi, that answered call, I do think it could come back to be Ahsoka. That's who I think could, because I initially thought, when she was introduced and talking to Grogu, I initially thought, okay, well, she's going to start training him and eventually maybe get him passed on to Luke somehow. And maybe that's how you get the connection of him getting to where he needs to be to get trained. So, because of the Ahsoka show, that's a way to keep Grogu around, but not necessarily keep him on the same path as Din. But I'm not writing it, so who knows? Who knows?
Oh, look, I think I'm totally envisioning a future where there will be a legit Jedi Academy with Luke and Ahsoka. Grogu's there. I think they even bring in a Cal Katarn. I think it is Filoni's mission to bring in as much legends as makes sense, and that would make fans happy as well as serve a unique story. So I think it's all possible.
That's good, because I was just about to say let's wrap up by really kind of hitting on that very thing you just said. Like if we are introducing these Jedi, and I mean, let's just talk about then. I mean, just how impactful is that? Not to take away the Star Wars fictional side of it, but how impactful that is in the Star Wars universe. Like in that time period, having all those Jedi around that time and still in a sense still fighting the Empire, right? I mean, that's what they're technically doing. I mean, Boba Fett even kind of said it as he sees it. It's like they're back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and again, I think it harpens back to the old Thrawn trilogy, because everybody thought the Empire was done 5 years after Return of the Jedi and then Thrawn's got this whole fleet still out there. And I mean, to me, that's, you know, this whole notion that we're just on the small outer rim side of the galaxy with the Mandalorian doing it. This is starting to become a very huge, impactful storyline.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you think that is what his goal is and what we're going to be getting?
I think that's just Filoni's MO. I think that's just how he treats the show. Is he, you know, even though this is Favreau's show as well, but like it's, you know, very much they're partners in a lot of ways. So, you know, it's a very intimate show. He gets involved with something much bigger than him. You know, and with, you know, in Star Wars, so of course it's going to be, I would say, galaxy wide. You know, I don't know if every Star Wars story should be galaxy wide, but like Mandalorian definitely is feeling that. So he's getting wrapped up in something that could be galaxy wide, and then it'll end on a note that's back to where it started, very intimate, just like Rebels, you know, kind of started small, got big, and got small again. So I would see that's how this is going.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like them adapting this Heir to the Empire Thrawn trilogy is where it's heading when they mention Thrawn. Like the mention of Thrawn in the time period, the remnants of the Empire, it all leads to that type of story. And now you just sort of adjust. Like maybe Luke isn't the sort of Jedi hero that takes on this villain. Maybe Ahsoka is in his place now, and you just, you know, allow Luke to be starting his order. And maybe because when he starts the order, he's with Ben, maybe Ben's sort of dark side leanings clouds some of Luke's ability to know what's going on around him. You know, there's a lot of ways I think they could write around some of these things that would potentially cause some people to go like, wait a minute, I didn't realize that actually happened. So I feel like that's where this is going. And it makes sense to me. I mean, I feel like they've got 30 years to play with, so there's a lot of time there. Even if Luke were to somehow be involved in some of the conflict, maybe pre-Ben Solo training, I think there's still some time there.
Yeah, because I was just thinking, like, what is that? I have to look back and try to find the timeline of when Luke starts the academy, when he... Because Case, do you remember, does he begin just training Ben and then starts the academy, or does he start the academy and then brings Ben in later?
I think you're referring to the encyclopedia that lays out that timeline, I think, because there's really no mention of it, but I think it probably is mentioned maybe somewhere in there. But I can't. I can't.
Do you remember Cody at all?
I'm pretty certain it talks about him taking on Ben, and then like a year to 5 years after that is when the order is started. So I think there is like, it's just him and Ben, like at a young age for Ben.
Yeah, I know, because I know in The Rise of Kylo Ren, he looks like he's just a teenager or early teenager when they first run into the Knights of Ren, right, in that book. So at that point, I don't know if there's a whole order yet that he started. I don't think. Is that where you're getting at? I don't think there's a whole order yet.
Like not when he first is training Ben, I don't think. But here, I mean, who's to say that when he takes on Ben as an apprentice, and maybe before he's got the full-fledged order or you know, his version of it up and running, who's to say that him and Ben didn't also like help out in the Thrawn, whatever that battle becomes? I mean, I don't think there's anything in current canon to like go against it.
I think the only thing is Ben at this point is only 4, so I don't think he's involved in that. That's unless it lasts a long time, which I don't think I could imagine it being. But at this point, Leia, right? If I recall, Leia has already trained and walked away because she felt the danger of Ben. So she's just trying to raise him as a normal kid right now. I think it wasn't until he was older, which again is an issue, right? I mean, I don't, that's the issue. When you get older, you have attachments, and you're more prone to fear. So, so I think at this point, yeah, she's just raising him, and Luke. I mean, again, we don't know where Luke is. We don't know this part of Luke's journey yet. So,
yeah, it's just going to be hard if this becomes a big event, a galaxy-wide event. You can't ignore the legacy characters, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be heavily involved. Because the circumstances of the original trilogy, it was guerrilla fighting. Everybody was on the front lines, because that's all they had. But now it's like Leia doesn't necessarily have to grab a blaster and start firing, nor does Han. I mean, I feel like he would more likely not want to be involved this time around. He wants to kind of live his life now. So, but who knows? I think you can reference them. You can acknowledge their presence in this world, show them, but they don't have to be fighting. Luke probably, because he's a Jedi, and I think he would want to, but yeah, I don't think you'd have to show everybody. So
yeah, but and that's a good point, because if this is happening in this part of the galaxy, there's nothing to go against that. This is happening in other parts of the galaxy as well, and Han could be dealing with that story, and not, unless the bigger picture is that Thrawn is somehow controlling all of this.
Yeah,
maybe. I don't know. So.
Yeah, well, it's like when you get the pilot mentioning, he's like, talk to the New Republic, and no one's listening to him about something happening. It's like, okay, that definitely, there's a chain up to the top there with that line. Like there's Mon Mothma, most likely somebody up in the high command of New Republic. They're somewhat aware of at least these rumors or something. So, it's hard to ignore them if it gets any bigger.
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously the New Republic, failed to a certain extent. Sure. Maybe because they didn't want to take the stance of the Empire and just like crush the Imperial remnants. So maybe this show can delve into why they weren't, why they didn't follow up on leads that their pilots told them about. But then we can bring in characters, like the pilots that they've shown, and we can see members of the New Republic go against orders, and maybe this threat or this galactic thing happens in the unknown regions.
Yeah.
And a few people that actually, go to this potential threat and still leave the larger New Republic out of it. And then maybe it's a way to like have some New Republic people survive the Hosnian catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever do take any of these characters into future uses.
Nice. All new speculations and conversations. I mean, that's what that whole meeting, I think, did, was it gave us a lot more to talk about, obviously, right? I mean, we feel like we just had the Mandalorian and maybe some games here and there, but now we've got all this live action content coming, as well as some animation shows that we haven't even talked about yet. But most of the live action, all on Disney Plus, is going to be rolled out over the next few years. So, yeah, don't feel like we're going to go anywhere for a long time. So, I know we're a little longer this time, but thanks, guys, for getting into this. Great conversations. We will be back in a couple weeks talking about the finale, the season 2 finale of The Mandalorian. Probably going to take up the whole show, because I'm sure it's going to raise a lot of freaking questions. I just don't see it not causing a lot of controversy in one way or the other, whether or not we get some reveals of new characters or old characters. A lot's going to go down, and I'm actually going to be on the plane. I'm going to be on the plane watching it, I think, because I won't. I could get up early in the morning, but I got to get up early anyway to drive to the airport. So probably not going to catch it at 3 a.m. When you guys, Cody, you going to get up at 3 and watch this thing, or what?
I've been doing like a 6:30, 6:45. I kind of try to get up before my son wakes up. I may have to go a little earlier if this one's going to be a 50-minute one, but I feel like that's been kind of working for me, so I might do that.
Yeah. Case, you've been watching these you've been catching these a little later, I think, right?
The start of it, yeah. I'm able to wake up a little earlier, but I can't always beat my son waking up. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll watch the first half and just have to catch the last of it a little later.
Nice. Okay. Well, I'll text you some emoji or something.
Yeah.
When after I land, after I watch it. Yeah, exactly. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. 2020 is almost over. I know a lot of people are looking forward to that. And 2021 is almost upon us. Thanks, guys, for hanging out. For Casey Cooley.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
For Cody Geiler.
Thanks for having me. See ya.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great holiday season. We'll be back after Christmas, leading up to the new year, and talking about all things Star Wars. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. I'm Dave Cottingham. May the Force be with you.